welcome back to another episode of the Mixed Tribe Dad podcast. Thank you so much for all the likes, share, and subscribes. This one is going to be one that's super fun. I'm super excited to talk about why high-ticket men need a wolf pack. And listen, you hear this all the time, right? You hear this all the time. High-ticket men, CEOs, entrepreneurs, those are in high-level management. You're considered high-ticket, right? High value because people want to get to know you. They want to get to understand who you are. But listen to me clearly. Tony Robbins said this. He said that 60% of men thrive in groups. Let me say that again. 60% of men thrive in groups. So if you're trying to get to that high level, you're trying to get to that next level, be that high ticket dad or that high ticket man, right? Single dads, bonus dads. If you're trying to get to that next level, you need to be part of a group. Based on Tony Robbins, who's arguably one of the top coaches globally ever. So how do you do that? How do you get into this high ticket business? So what are some things you need to do? First of all, you've already probably established a baseline of kind of who you are and what you're doing. Right? So I'm going to speak directly to those of you that are owners, CEOs, entrepreneurs that have multiple companies. One thing that you probably have already done is kind of laid out the foundation of your piece and what you're doing, whether you use the EOS system as the baseline of what you've used for over the years and you've transitioned to different software, or use a different type of ground to understand your people. Here's what I do know is if you're a part of a program, a mentorship program, fantastic. Have you established your group that you're part of? Have you established your tribe or the pack that you run with? See, your circle of influence dictates the growth in which you're a part of. And let me explain this real quick. Oftentimes as CEOs, and oftentimes when we're starting a company, what we fail to do is we hit goals. We set goals, which is totally great. You should set goals. One thing that I don't like about goal setting is this. See, in an interview with Ed Milet and Dr. Andrew Huberman, they talked about dopamine. They talked about dopamine and that rush, and everybody loves. You guys know what dopamine is, and I love dopamine. It's my friend. It's what I love to do, right? I've been able to narrow in using the oligodendrocytes to narrow in and scope in when it's time to get going. So you've already established, as a CEO, you've already established the music that gets you going, right? The hype music. It says, hey, when we hear this song, it means we're getting ready to focus and do something. And then you have your focus music, whatever that music is. So now that you've been able to use dopamine, you've been able to establish your baseline, and you set these goals and these milestones that you do, what happens is if you aren't goal stacking, if I call it, or habit stacking, after that, you have this natural decline. I was an individual that I've mentored over the past year, and he went and proposed to his girlfriend, now fiance, and by the time you watch this, now wife. His goal when I started working with him in January of 2025 was to propose to he called her his hot girlfriend, because I call my wife the hot wife. He wanted to propose to her in Italy in June. I said, perfect. What are you doing? How are you building this? What is the run? Give me this 6-month run. What is that run? Everybody has runs. And he said, oh, this is what I'm doing. Perfect. So then we worked through building a mindset. We worked through that vision board, right? He had a vision board for the company, but didn't have a personal vision board. It's two separate things. And we'll talk about that a little bit here. And so as he built through and he went through every time, and I would just check in on him, see how he was doing in the sense of hitting those mile marks and those stones that he wanted to hit. So he went, proposed, beautiful, blew up all over social media. People hit him up. Man, that was fantastic. It was so good. He was like, yeah, I know. It was awesome. He comes down from this beautiful high. He came home off this beautiful high. And then he called me and he said, hey, all right, we got to talk about some business thing. I'm like, perfect. Let's talk about business. And then I could hear it in his voice that he was starting to get stressed, which happens naturally. You're going to happen. You ride this high, you hit this high, and then all of a sudden you're coming back down. And so what he didn't understand is why he was self-destructing. Those of you who read the book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, you'll understand upper limiting, the purpose behind why we upper limit. So then his brain started to go into this frenzy of what is going on. See, what happened is he had worked so hard to accomplish that 6-month run, the goal that he wanted to do. He hit that goal. So when he came back to the place of not purpose, but the place that was familiar to him, his brain went into the mode of, hey, we're in this space. We're in where we are right now. But what's the goal? Where's the new goal? So your brain's looking around, right? Your brain needs structure. Your brain thrives for structure. Your brain is so used to dopamine hitting at specific times during the day because of the way that you've set it up. Oftentimes we forget that we need to stack on top of a stack. We need to habit stack on top of stack or goal set on top of goal set. I call them benchmarks. However you want to phrase it, it's the same thing. You want to benchmark to benchmark. So when he came home, right, he runs 3 companies. He came home and one of the company was blown up, right? 20% increase, 20%, and then bam, they're on track to do a 50% increase. Little tweaks that we've done here and there, which has been fantastic for him. But then he started to stress out and he's really stressed. He goes, man, what is going on? Like, why? We're everything is amplified. Business, the finances, the P&Ls, all that is starting to be amplified because he had just come back and now he's on this downward low drop, but he doesn't quite understand. It happens to us all the time. We hit what we want to do. We plan a vacation. We go somewhere, go attain this or go attain that, but we forget that we need to habit stack on top of it. I call it habit stacking because when you're building a habit, you're growing in the process. So if you want to build a company, you're building a company or you're setting that foundation, you've got to stack on top of that. 6-month run, 6-month run, high performer, high achievers. You run in 6-month runs. If you've never done a 6-month run, try a 30-day run. What's the purpose of now your growth for 6 months? Grind, I'm going to stay in the grind. I committed to the grind. I said, no. You're not answering my question. What is your next 6-month? What is your next 6-month run? He goes, well, the goal is to get the company to where it needs to be and to put this company here and do this and do that. I go, you're still not listening to what I'm saying. Let me be super clear. What is your personal growth? What is your next personal growth 6-month run? And he said to me, like all of us would, right? All you high performers, you would say, what does that have to do with any type of business? And I said, I am so glad you asked me that question. And I said this, understand this. Your business growth is only determined by your personal growth. Let me say that again. The faster, the more clear you are on your personal growth and your personal development, the more clear you will get on building your company. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, it should. But if it doesn't, let me explain. All gurus around will tell you. You listen to this and it's scientifically proven. The more you build and work on you, listen to all of them. Dan Martell is my digital mentor. The more he has grown on himself as a person, that's why he's been able to exit out of 3 companies worth $100 million. He's probably going to be worth more of that depending on when you listen to this. They will all tell you the same thing. The more you focus on building you as an individual, the faster your business will grow. Your business growth is only predicated upon your personal growth. And let me explain it in more depth. You don't want to be working in the business, you want to be working on the business. So I told my friend that I'm mentoring, he's my friend, but I'm mentoring him. I told him, you don't want to be working in, you want to be working on. He goes, right, I am working on the business system. I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. What you're doing is you're multitasking, and you cannot multitask. Multitasking does not work, and it absolutely sucks. You become the jack of all trades and the master of none. But the problem is that will start to suffer. All of the side things you're doing, all of the businesses that you're running will suffer if you are not clear on the one company. How do you think Ed Mylett runs all those companies? How do you think Gary Vee runs all his companies? How do you think Dan Martell runs all his companies? How do you think E.T. the hip hop preacher runs all of his companies? How do you think Mel Robbins runs her companies? Think about that. They work on, not in. And how do you work on the company? It's simple. You then now to replace who you are. You have to replace you with somebody better. The smartest people in the world that I know hire people that are smarter than them to do a job better than they can. Remember, Dan Martell always says this to me. He says, when you find somebody, 80% of what they can do is 100% better of what you can do. Meaning when you let that go and that person is doing 80% of what you can do, that's fantastic. You just bought that all buy back all your time. That's why his book is such a phenomenal book. When you buy back your time, the time that you buy back is 100% better than the time you had to dedicate to do it. So high performing ticket men, that's why a group setting is perfect for you. That's why running in groups is perfect. You call them the circle of influences. We can tag them as groups. Your circle of influences you go to and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. How do I get clarity? Hey, I'm struggling here, right? How do I get clarity? And if that group doesn't right off tell you, say, how are you developing personally first to get to that space, they're doing you a disservice. So going back to my friend, going back to the guy that I'm mentoring, I told him, what is your 6-month run? What is your next 6-month run? He said, that's a great question. I haven't thought of that. I go, then you need to develop the next 6-month habit stack on top of that to the next 6 month. And then he's like, man, that's just, okay, how do I do this? And I go, so then why is the purpose? What is the purpose for your next 6 month? What is your purpose? And he sat there and he goes, that's a great question. I don't know. He's like, well, my why would be this. I'm like, okay, so now we're going to introduce what I call the 7-layer bean dip. Why? Do you guys know what 7-layer bean dips is? If you haven't, if you're new to this, the last episode I went in deep, so let me cover it really quick. My mother makes a phenomenal bean dip. If you've never had a 7-layer bean dip, go to your local grocery store, find it, say, where's your 7-layer bean tips? And they'll show you. Open it up. See, the top part is really nobody cares about. It's tomatoes. I don't mind tomatoes. People love tomatoes, but that's not the purpose. That top layer nobody wants. They want to get down to that bottom layer, which is where that guacamole meets the refried beans and they've had time to marinate and combine together. So when you take your scoop of your chip, you go from the top to the bottom because you can't go from the bottom up because it will break your chip. But you go from the top and you go through the top where the tomatoes and then the olives are, and then some people put onions on it and then cheese and then sour cream. And then they put some other things in there. But by the time you hit that bottom layer, you can scoop it out just like a backhoe. You can scoop that baby out just like a backhoe. So what you need to do on the clarity to get high volume and high result is you need to go to that 7-layer bean dip why. First question is you ask why. Why are you doing this run? You're going to answer that question perfect, but why? If you answer that question, then you'll write another why, and you'll answer that why until you hit that 7th layer, and that 7th layer becomes your actual why. That 7th layer why, that why right there helps you propel to that next level of growth. That 7th layer why helps you in those dark times, gets you through that positioning, pushes you further, pushes you harder, pushes it to where you can. I will, I must, as my digital mentor, E.T. Hip Hop Preacher says, at that 7th layer why, that is the springboard, that is the catalyst to keep you going. That is where the oligodendrocyte starts to focus in. The oligodendrocyte starts to zone in and help the dopamine fire. That why right there now becomes the new propeller for you. That new why, that 7th layer why, that reminds you what it was like when you first started to build your companies or when you got into management. When you get in that 7th layer why, you need to connect, you need to scope in, and you need to attract others that understand that why, understand that purpose, understand that deep, deep why. So then you can start working on the company and not in the company. Working on the company is simply this. If you're in charge of one company, that's fantastic. Replace yourself. You need to replace yourself as fast as possible. If you haven't thought, how am I going to replace myself? Why would I want to replace myself? Well, the purpose of replacing you is because you suck at what you do. I know I'm going to get backlash. I get it. Let me help you understand. So when I built a company in 2020, I was commissioned to build this company with part-time college kids with zero sales experience or any type of business, a coon, right? They were college kids. Now, a little caveat though, a lot of them I was able to pull because of where we are in Utah. We were able to pull from universities, 2 big universities. And a lot of them some of them were returned missionaries. So a good portion of them were returned missionaries. They had already gone out, knocked on doors, knew what it was like to face rejection, fear, the whole nine, but they could open their mouth and talk. But what I did was simply said this: I'm going to build a company around part-time college kids because they are sponges. They want to learn. They want to grow. They're like, how can I do anything? But more importantly, they just needed a job. They needed a job. So our motto, our passion, our why, our vision, our mission statement was, we're a multi-million-dollar company. We're a multi-million-dollar personal development company first, with a phenomenal compensation package attached to it. My job, our job, all of my leadership job, our job was to train you and develop you as a person first. The byproduct of us doing that and focusing on building you as an individual, the byproduct of that was the growth of the company. So I can't grow the company unless I grow myself. I can't grow the company unless I grow those underneath that are leading, are looking up to me, right? They look up, I'm the bottom looking up to them. As they're looking up to me, I'm on the bottom elevating and helping them. So the goal for me, the promise that I had was this: when you leave my company, when you leave this company, and they're like, I would never leave. You bullcrap, you're going to leave, which is totally fine and you should. I said, when you leave this company, our goal and our promise to you is to make you a better individual. It's help you understand goal setting. It's help you understand mindset. It's help you understand the passion behind the 3 I am statements, the passion behind the attitude of gratitude and what you're going to focus on today. That is our goal. So when you leave our company, you can go command a higher base pay. You can go command a better position in the company. You can command a better leadership position in the companies you're coming apart. These kids were college students. My goal was to build them individually first. So we did. The leadership that I built around me was that your focus, the focus that we had was building individuals. Again, this goes back to what I said originally. The growth of your company will only be as fast and as big and as wide as the growth of you as an individual. I needed to replace me because I sucked at what I was doing. Here's what I was doing: multitasking. I was the sales director. I was the marketing director. I was the technical help guy. I was the customer service, the QA, the QC, the trainer. I was all of that. See, I was taking and doing jobs I should never have been doing, but I had to at the beginning as we built. So how did we grow this? How do you work on that in? Here's how you do it. You don't ask, you tell. Now, that's not the movement that everybody was doing years ago. This is what I have always done. The first thing that I do is I think to myself, what does a sales manager look like? What does the director of sales look like? What are all the parts and pieces? Now you have AI to help you write this. So I would go on and go look at all the job descriptions, what I want, and I took all that and then I wrote individually. This is what they are. This is their mindset. This is the books that they study. This is what they're reading. This is what they're listening to. This is the philanthropy things they do. This is how they do charity. This is how they give reward. This is how they like to receive affection, meaning compliments. This is how they grow business, the business mindset, the personal mindset. This is how they grow as a person. And I wrote all that out, typed it all out, put it in there. And I took that information, I took all of that and said, okay, who have I hired, the 15 people I have currently hired, who exemplifies this? This is what I need. I need to replace myself as the director of sales. Who does this? And I found him. His name was Pete Lewis. And I said, Pete, I sat him down on a Friday. And I said, Pete, let me tell you something. A job opening's coming up. I haven't released it yet, but here's the description. Read it all out. And I said, you have 40% of what I'm looking for. My job is to develop the other 40%, and then your job is to always work on the revolving 20%. I said, so what I want you to do is I want you to go home and I want you to tell your wife, hey, I got a promotion at work. I didn't ask for it. I just was put into it. It's not going to increase my hours. It's not going to take me away from my family. And I still will have the availability that I wanted when I first got hired here. That's perfect. So the next 2 weeks, I said, here's what we're going to do. Sat down with Pete, mapped it all out, right? One thing I wish I would have done that I didn't do, which was record the trainings. All the trainings that I was doing with Pete, I should have recorded. I wish I would have recorded it, because then you could duplicate the process. So that's hack number 1. Record your trainings when you are training leadership. Record the individual trainings, and then you use that as a baseline and help them understand. Okay? So I should have recorded it. But anyways, I didn't. 2 weeks, fast-tracked it. Here's what we're going to do. Pete, you're going to take it over. Pete took it over. Pete got 60% of it right the first month. Pete got 60% of it right the first month. But guess what? Go back to what my mentor, Dan Martell, says. 60% of Pete doing a job I didn't have to do was 100% better of me not needing to do it, because now I bought back that time. Now I'm working on the company. I didn't have to do that anymore. I was relieved. I was moved. I didn't have to do that. So you, CEO, I'm talking to you. You, entrepreneur, I'm talking to you. If you want to know why your company is struggling, or where it's at, or where's that next growth, you need to ask yourself, how am I building myself better? What is that run? What is that next purpose? Why am I doing what I'm doing? What is that 6-month push go to? That is what you need to establish now. What is that purpose? What is that? And then what you do is you build it out, you map it out. Get a vision board up. Oh, I don't want to vision board up. Because a thought not written down is just a dream that goes away. A thought written down on paper and then put in front of you now becomes solidified. Your brain now has something to focus on. The RAS now activates. The dopamine kicks in. It gets excited when it looks at that vision board. It gets excited because you know it's in growth mode. It gets excited because it has something to push towards. It gets excited because it says, yes, I remembered when we won last time, like my buddy who proposed to his fiance in Italy. Yes, I remember like last time when I promoted Pete to that new position. Yes, I remember it was like when I promoted Janelli to be the QA/QC. Yes, I remember what it was like when we broke even after 2.5 months of being dead red. I remember what it was like. And that is the excitement that you need back. So you ask yourself, in a group, what group do I find? You go out and ask the eco space. You interview people, if you will, without actual interview. You interview them. You see them. You see their mindset. You see where they're at. You reach out to them and say, hey, I love what you're doing. Tell me about how you run the company. What is it you like? What are the downfalls? And if they get into P&Ls and they get into costs and this analysis, no. How do you individually, how do you run the company? And that is why high ticket men, high achieving men, men that have a high mindset, high alpha brain attitude, that's why you need a strong, solidified group. 100%. That's why you need it. Now, there's more to how to build and grow. There's more to all of that. But just understand this. Like Tony Robbins said, 60% of men thrive in groups. Because it brings us back to when we were at our best at dreaming and visions. If you've ever played on a sports team, if you've ever been part of any kind of group activity, if you've ever been in a theater, if you've ever been in a debate group, a choir group, if you've ever been in a band, if you've ever been into drawing, if you've ever done FFA, whatever the group you've ever been in, if you've ever been online and you played with a group of friends, you thrive for that. And here's why you thrive. You will never, ever, ever want to let down a complete stranger that you've never met, only in a group setting. But how fast will you not hold yourself accountable for not accomplishing the goals that you set forward? Think about that for a second. We will do more for other people than we will do for ourselves. So why be in a group? Because the group can hold you accountable. The group will hold and call out your BS. The group will be your biggest advocate and your cheerleader. Because at the end of the day, when you go home to your super hot wife, or you just go home to your children, or you go home, what they want to know is which dad are they getting? Are they getting business dad, or are they getting the dad that I love? And now you can separate the two out. I created a group, Mixed Tribe Dad. It's a texting app. Go download the texting app. It is a global group. Men get on there and we share ideas, and we share visions, and we share goals and what's working, what's not. Yes, I post things in there all the time. Sometimes it's a downloadable that you can read and go, oh, I've never thought about. Or I'll take interviews that I've done in the past, or the businesses that I've built that I've actually done great, and the ones that I've actually sucked at. I'll put that in there, mindset training. And then I will also announce when I do lives or when I do special events, to where it's just for those that are on the texting app. So you can go to mixedtribedads.com. You can link in from there. Or just Mixed Tribe Dad. It's right in there, and click on it, sign up, be a part of the best, fastest growing group globally ever. It is a group specific for high achievers. It's a group specific for those that have clarity and vision. And if you don't, we will help you get there. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you so much for being a part of the Mixed Tribe family, and the purpose behind the vision and the goal of what we are trying to do is get it to where no more of 75% of the men hide their pain. No more. It's time to rip that out and be purposeful and be driven. Until next time, be the badass man that